Hello and welcome to the Asian Game, coming to you from the Thammasat Stadium on the outskirts of Bangkok. The graffiti, it's not graffiti, it's confetti. The confetti is, there's probably graffiti somewhere as well. The confetti is, fluttering away all around us. There you go, you picked it up, it's spectacular. Scott McIntyre alongside Ryan Walters. We've seen, as we expected, as we spoke about pre-match, both of us thought that Thailand would get the job done. Yep. They did so. It wasn't a classic second leg final. It ended 1-0. It was a classic goal, though, to win it. An absolute belter from Theerathon Bunmathan with his right foot. Doesn't score many, generally, but he certainly doesn't score many with his right foot. I can't remember any. So, yeah, a goal worthy of winning it. And I think a little bit the air was taken out of it after that. Vietnam knew that they were probably facing a battle, and, once that goal went in, you got a sense from them, you got a sense from Thailand. They didn't need to push it too much. It was a little bit niggly here and there in parts, but the crowd was fantastic, backing, and the celebrations were great as well. I'm sure both of us will post a few more of those in the coming days. There was all sorts of dances going on.
Lots of chairs involved?
Yep.
Lots of chairs involved?
Yep, chairs. Bored in with this dance that he's made. Can you do it?
I'm not going to do it on camera.
No?
I'll do it at our next stop.
Rightio. So, just generally, I think we've spoken throughout the tournament. It's not often in tournament situations that you get a worthy champion. I think we got worthy finalists, and I think we got a worthy champion. So, from that point of view, kudos and credit to Thailand.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, honestly, I wouldn't have said Vietnam weren't worthy of it. I definitely think Thailand showed up a little bit stronger, though. I mean, we talked about this pre-match that those two goals that they scored in Hanoi were absolutely massive, and then the second one for Vietnam really was Thailand switching off on a set piece, and so they've been the stronger side over these two legs for sure. And like you say, Theerathon rightfully won MVP, and I think he was going to if he did or didn't score tonight anyway. But then, I mean, especially with Mano Poking giving him the captain's armband, he just stepped up in a way that I don't think is a surprise to anybody, but it was great to see him really shine in that way, whereas maybe this is something to talk about as well. Win Kwang Hai didn't start this match. We talked pre-match that there would be something needed from him. I don't know if it was a tactical decision to kind of...
Well, yeah, but it wasn't fitness. It was clearly tactical. So it was clearly tactical, but it was a confusing tactical decision. I mean, yes, okay, he hasn't been at his best. And I spoke with a few of the Vietnamese journalists here afterwards, and they were a little bit disappointed, I think, by his outing. Some even questioning why he moved to France, which was a bit of a surprise to me. Some people may be suggesting that it wasn't done necessarily for football reasons. We've seen that he struggled for game time since he's got to Pau, and he was a bit sluggish tonight. But still, when you've got the quality that he's got, and we've seen in this tournament, right, moments of magic that he can have, to not start him, then you go a goal down, and then you say, well, hang on a second, and he came on after whatever it was, 30 minutes or so. So, I think it was an unusual decision. It's even if your key player is out of form, you don't bench them in a final where you need to win. And what does it say to the other players in the team? And then what equally does it say? Tunan, I think, was the player that got taken off. I was watching him on the way over, and he was despondent. The players next to him were despondent. The staff were like, you've come off after 30 minutes and this guy's come on. Then the burden of pressure is even greater on Kwang Hai to come on and do something. And you could see he was frustrated. He was trying to get on the ball. The passes weren't sticking, or the runs that were being made weren't matching. And I think there was a general frustration right across Vietnam tonight.
Yeah, I definitely think you could sense that. I mean, you and I were amongst the subs warming up a little bit as well, and it just...
We weren't actually, I mean, we were near the subs, we weren't...
I've got a red kit ready to go at any point.
Yeah.
But even the mood, and we switched sides, and the mood with the Thai players was light and jovial, and like they were up on the boards, they were watching the match, they were ready to go. Vietnam didn't have that about them, and I mean, a lot of that was because of the early goal, but even before that, you could kind of see that there was just a different air about them, and I don't know if it was that they didn't feel as confident or what, but like you say, that did kind of go across the whole team. And then, much like we talked about pregame, if Vietnam could have gotten an early goal, it would have taken the crowd out of it. Well, the exact opposite happens, and of all the people, it's Theerathon, and it was a great goal as well. And so you see that go in, and I think the team, like you say, they just deflated and then started trying to force things instead of playing the game that got them here. And they just looked all out of sorts after that, and I just don't understand why, when you know you need a goal, you wouldn't put Quang Hai in there. But maybe we're focused on Vietnam too much here,
Well,
because Thailand did
before
win.
we move off, well, we will get to Thailand in a minute. I just want to finish the Vietnam thing because it's the end of Park Hang. So what I'm hearing is that there's 3 contenders to take over. One is a Brazilian coach, one is a European coach, and one is an Asian coach, interestingly. So I don't know anything more than that, but apparently the list is down to 3, and they're the nationalities, or broader nationalities at least, of those coaches. So where should Vietnam go from here, and what's the legacy now, looking back on the reign of Park Hang-seo?
I mean, I think Park Hang-seo, you can't look at his time and not notice the trophy collection. I mean, he won pretty much everything put in front of him. He won this, he won SEA Games. And I think for me, when I think about where Vietnam is now versus 5 years ago, Vietnam's mentioned in the same breath as Thailand in many ways. And like we've been saying, it was no surprise they were here. They deserve to be here. They are a championship winning team at this point, and he's got that winning mentality there. But I know, as you've talked about many times before, I do think that there's talent on that team, especially in the midfield, and especially with the strikers, that need to be released a little bit more. And so I think the next direction for them should be a much more attacking brand of football, which, that's always what people say when there's a new manager coming in. That's what everybody wants. But I think it's a good time for him to leave. I think his legacy, I mean, look, we saw it in Hanoi, we saw it here. The fans, for the most part, really adore him and are very appreciative of what he's done. I think had he been able to go out lifting the trophy, obviously that would have been better, but they had a pretty good showing this tournament, and I think overall it was a very successful stint. I do think it's definitely time to move in a different direction, though.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, I think they've gone backwards and pretty badly. I mean, if we think now of the nations, there's only 4 Southeast Asian nations, Australia as well, but who've qualified for the Asian Cup, whenever that's going to be next year. And of the 4 that are there, I think particularly given what we've seen in this tournament, we can say that Thailand are the only ones that, depending on what happens with the coaching situation in Vietnam, of course, but on the evidence we have now, back-to-back champions. Thailand did this, let's not forget, with probably, I think, maybe 6, 7, maybe more starters who would have been in the 11 who weren't here. Manapolking didn't harp on that too much. He did mention it from time to time, but it wasn't harped upon. And the fact that they've been able to do that with the second team, again, I'm setting Australia aside from the discussion, but I think within the region they've got the strongest league. A lot needs to be done, maybe still, to work on development and grassroots stuff, particularly at youth level here in Thailand, which I think last year there was only 10 to 20 games that youth teams played in this country, so that's a problem, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. But tonight they're back-to-back AFF Championship champions. They're heading to the Asian Cup, flying the ASEAN flag along with Australia. Where does Thailand now sit? And I guess pushing it forward, I mean, they've conquered this stage. They've conquered it with their first team. They've conquered it with their second team. The next question now for the senior side has to be going to the continental stage and doing something there. Can you see that they will do that 12 months or so back when things return to Qatar?
When we're back in Qatar well, you'll be back there. I haven't been yet. But when we're there covering that, I mean, that was what Manapolking was talking about at the press conference after the game, is that, okay, yes, let's take this in, let's be proud of this, and it is something to be proud of. This was their 7th championship. I mean, they've just extended their own lead, much like Theerathon's extending his own lead. Thailand have done the same with their trophies, and so I don't think there really was a question of who's the best in the region, and that's definitely them. So the next step, and this is what he was saying,
there were those questions in 18, right, when Vietnam won the title. So
and again, I think that speaks to Park Hang-seo's legacy, is that he put that doubt in there in the region. But I think for what's next, and this is what Polking was saying, is that you have to play strong opposition. You have to play teams that are better than you if you want to get better. And he was saying he wants to be there with the Japans, the Koreas, the Saudi Arabias, the Irans, the powerhouses of Asian football. He wants Thailand to be there. And they're going to be playing in West Asia. They were invited out, and they're going to be doing that. And I think that's the kind of stuff they need to be doing. We've seen Qatar, we've seen that national team play all over the world, in North America, South America, Europe, wherever they get an invite. And I think for Thailand, getting those invites and playing against higher ranked nations, I don't like saying stronger nations, higher ranked nations that have a little bit more success, that's what's next for them. And I think making a real run in the Asian Cup is kind of a must for this team at this point, because it's not that this is no competition. This wasn't an easy title for them to win. but they're expected to win it, and they're not expected to do as well on the Asian stage. So I think for them, and especially when they can get all of their best players in, I think they're capable of that.
Just changing tack a little bit, well, a lot of it, about the tournament as a whole. We are now at a point where we think, okay, Thailand, as you said, they maybe could be dominating this for years to come. There's been a lot of discussion over the years, and from what I understand, maybe the discussion's increased in recent times as well about getting Australia in, which is, of course, the forgotten the forgotten child of the region. They've never participated in the 10 or plus years, whatever they've been in here, at men's level anyway. I think now it will be good. It's logistically difficult with the leagues and everything else, and obviously Australia doesn't want to send an understrength team, but we've seen other nations doing it, so it's if it is the way we're going to go, should Australia come in, and would that maybe help take the competition to another level?
I mean, I think yes and yes. And just like we were talking about with Thailand, you want to play stronger opposition. I think obviously the Asian Cup is going to be higher than this, but for Australia, why not get involved in this tournament? Why not, if it's not going to be your full senior team, then send the U23s or send some of the fringe players that maybe are on the cusp. And look, if they do that, I don't think it's going to go that well for them. I do think that they should be in this tournament.
Right. Yeah.
But like if Australia send a B team and they think they're going to walk this, that's not going to be the case. But I think that would be really good for the program. And when you're talking about getting competitive football matches, get those in. Get those young players those minutes in an atmosphere like this, because we've seen when a sold-out stadium can rattle players. And if they haven't experienced that before, then you're kind of setting them up to fail in that way. So if you can get these matches in here, in Medan, in Jakarta at GBK, like if you can get these experiences of playing in these massive, massive stadiums where there are stakes in the game, why wouldn't you? To me, it just doesn't make sense why they're not involved.
All right, finally, let's just wrap it up. It's been a long tournament. There's been a lot of travel involved, but I mean, looking back on it, it's really enjoyable. You see a lot of different styles of football. To get to see different countries has been great, different cultures, as you said, a lot of the stadiums and everything else as well. For you, if there's a highlight, something that sticks in your mind from the past month or so, jetting here, there, and everywhere, what would it be?
Getting to experience GBK in person, finally.
That was your first time in?
Yeah. 50,000, and when they finally scored, I mean, the ground was shaking, and the fans there were amazing. And, I mean, anytime you're part of a trophy ceremony, it's always fun. So I would say those two.
Yeah, nice. For me, I was at the first match at the Gelora Bung Karno, which was a little bit more of a hairy experience. There was some form of a minor pitch invasion that happened that wasn't as easy as it could have been. You didn't quite get to experience that. But for me, again, I think it comes down to the fans. Just being back in Malaysia at Bukit Jalil, I think the Malaysian fans are probably the best in the region. Fantastic. But getting to see supporters from all across the region, just being here, and I think even within Asia, it's a region that, because they don't have success on the broader stage. I mean, they're not sending teams to the World Cup. They're not competitive at the pointy end of Asian Cup, so I think it's looked down upon a little bit. But we know that the talent's here. We know technically the players have what it takes. We know the support base is here, in my opinion, probably more so than anywhere in Asia and even beyond. I think that the fan culture here is something else altogether, and it's been great for us to do our little bit in trying to help bring awareness to the region and to football here, because it's such a huge part, and it's important. I mean, okay, you still see shirts of English clubs and European clubs, but you still see a lot of national shirts as well, which you don't see in most other parts of Asia. So it's been fantastic. We'll be back again in a couple of years, hopefully. We don't know the format, but to cover this all again, and hopefully we'll be back covering the Asian Cup if you want to come along and join us on that jaunt in Qatar as well. It's been great to have you along for this ride as well.
Been great being here. Thanks. I mean, a little tired after all the flights, but it's worth it again. It's been good. Yeah,
absolutely. So that is it for us. Signing off for the last time, Scott McIntyre, Ryan Waters for the Asian Game from Bangkok. It is farewell.